Good evening, everybody. This is Morbid. You're listening to the Pulpit of Doom Podcast. With me tonight, I have Pagan and Old Man Metal.
Hey, how y'all doing?
What's up?
Jaded won't be joining us tonight because she didn't realize that we were podcasting tonight, even though she was with us when we scheduled it, and it's been at the top of the page for a fucking week. And I'm saying that just hopefully she hears it. So she may or may not join in, but she wasn't aware that we were podcasting tonight. So that's what we get for now. I have a
strong feeling she'll come in.
We'll see. For anybody who's tuning in for the first time, or for anybody who's tuning in again, welcome to the Pulpit of Doom Podcast. Thanks for coming in and listening to us babble. For those of you that have never listened to us before, this is the official podcast of DreaminDemon.com, one of the longest running crime sites in existence at the moment, going on almost 15 years now. So normally our show consists of us talking about the top 10 stories over the last week, and this week's a good one. We got a lot of stories.
Some really good ones.
Yeah, some really good ones to talk about, and usually that will deviate into other areas. We are not professionals, so we
by any means.
No, we have no idea what we're talking about 80% of the time. We just like talking about
chiming in
bad shit that happens to people. And I have an interesting email that I got that I'll read later on in the podcast from somebody asking, what do we do when something that we report on, and by the word report, I use that term very loosely. What do we do when the person that has been accused of something heinous actually turns out that they did not do the crime that they were accused of? Short answer is nothing, but I will get back to that when we get to their email. Some people sometimes mistake us for investigative journalists, and
a bad mistake to make.
That's a very bad mistake.
You're just going to be disappointed.
Wow. We are definitely on the nihilist side of news reporting. We basically are just looking for the worst possible news that we can find for the week, and we try to pick ones that aren't being reported on by every single person. So try to find them oddball ones that people aren't talking about.
Real news.
Yeah, I guess. We definitely got some. Characters this week. Our number one this week is actually one we talked about last week, but we got a couple that came in late that I put up yesterday evening, so we may hit those as well. Our weird schedule of not having an actual set day to do the podcast, either Friday or Saturday, kind of screws up our top 10 a bit. Let's see here, and we can go ahead and get started. This one actually comes from you, Metal. This is the man that was accused of installing a hidden camera in the. Oh yeah, I remember this guy. Man accused of installing hidden camera in bedroom of friend's daughter out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, Brian Keith Fisher, great guy. Developed a romantic interest in one of his buddy's daughters, 12 years younger than him. I guess the daughter was still living at home with Buddy. She's 27. And Buddy said, basically, no fucking way you're going out with my little girl. Not going to happen. And, most people would probably take Buddy at his word, but not this guy. He decided to abuse their trust. For whatever reason, they let him house sit even after he had expressed an interest in the young lady. They let him house sit, and he took advantage of that and installed a camera in her bedroom. It's one of these little cameras that was concealed in a USB charger that you plug into a wall outlet. That's probably a pretty good place to hide a camera, unless you're hiding it in someone else's bedroom. I don't know who wouldn't notice that it was there, but especially since he had to get it where he wanted it. I guess it sounded like he had to plug it into an extension cord, and just that just really makes it that much harder for people not to notice. And she found it, and she went to Dad, and Dad plugged it in, and some unknown device hit his Wi-Fi, and he said, well, this is weird. Went to the cops, and the cops talked to this guy, and he broke down and admitted what he had done, and then they searched his house. And this was the thing that got me about it. You know, he apparently had been going on from April 1st to June 29th, they search his house. They find the packaging from the camera in the trash, which means that the dumb son of a bitch had kept the packaging until the last minute. And then his master plan to get rid of it was just throw it in the trash can. So not very smart.
And metal. And seriously, and if you look at the guy's mugshot, did you expect anything more out of this guy?
I really don't.
No, his ears are about a foot lower than they're supposed to be.
Right, and he's got this dumbass look on his face.
Like he's been caught again, and he's used to being caught.
It looks like he's been crying too. It really does. He's got some pretty red eyes going on there, but that's a pretty embarrassing thing to get caught doing, especially if he if he really did like this girl. You know what I mean? And they get busted doing something like this. That just the
his
fucking
mugshot looks like a putt.
It's just the shame that would be fucking involved with pulling off some stupid stunt like this.
If it was me on that mug, pissed off.
Not this guy. He's like, oh, I did it again.
Yeah. Oh shit.
39 years old. Doesn't know any better than that.
Well,
Now, how long did he have that camera in there?
So it's the charging document said April 1st to June 29th. I don't know that they necessarily know how long it was there. They probably just assumed that the earliest it could have been in there is when it was in there. The article said, though, is kind of weird because the article charging documents say April 1st, so there may have been some other reason they think that he was in the house before he house sat and had the opportunity to set it up. But according to the charging documents, it was there for a while. So if you let some this house sit for you, especially if he said he wanted to tap your daughter, you might check around behind him, or you might not let him house sit your house at all. That might even be a better idea. But
what's so funny too is that Jaded, if anybody's listened to the podcast and heard talk about this before, this is like one of her biggest fucking fears. One of her biggest ones is people setting up hidden cameras on her, and so whenever she moves into a new place, that's like one of the first things she does. Is she goes around, checks it out, make sure there's nothing hidden in the bathrooms or anything like that.
Well, very good idea.
I guess so, man. There's a lot of guys out here doing it. But, yeah, this one just seems so odd. That I guess the only thing, not that he did it. We've had people do some even dumber shit before, but it's the fact that that it wasn't noticed. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on where the damn camera was, actually. I mean, you mentioned it in the article and kind of touched on it, but I know my surroundings pretty well. I think I would notice some weird thing that just got plugged into an outlet. So I don't know if this was something that was nearer to the floor. You know, maybe that I could see not noticing as much, but if it was sitting up higher, I would notice something like that being plugged in and wonder what the fuck it is.
Yeah, the article said it was sitting on a desk, plugged into an extension cord and camouflaged with furniture.
Okay, so the girl may not look any different than he does.
Well, it's like I said in the article. No one said he was smart. No one said she was smart. You know, no one's made that claim on either of their behalves. And
yeah, because we're not talking about. She wasn't a teenage either. She was like 25 years old.
Yeah.
27.
27 years old. Let's see here.
And I mean, you know, someone raised the question in the comments, you know, maybe she knew it was there and she didn't care about whether it was there. Then he found it, or she got scared he was going to find it. And I guess that's within the realm of possibility, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. We just had that story a couple of weeks ago.
She looks like him.
We had that story a couple of weeks ago where the dude cut that his employee's dick off. Because he touched his wife, and it was still in the realm of possibilities that whole scenario was not the way it actually was. That you know, they very well could have been fooling around, and she just threw him under the bus when he come pulling up quicker maybe than they thought.
Right.
Although I'll take a hidden camera being found and my junk getting cut off and thrown to the dogs.
Oh yeah. What's his name again?
Who, the dude that got his dick cut off?
The dude with no dick, or this week's guy?
Yeah, he better be lucky to get his dick cut off.
Yeah. Well,
by somebody.
My daddy.
Yeah, daddy. You know, Mad Daddy.
Yeah, and that would I think that would have been a person's concern. You know, this is your buddy. This is someone that you know.
Right.
You got to know that the dude's not a pushover, and you know, some people about consequences.
The bastard's been to your house. He's ate with you. He's watched a football game or 12 with you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, in comparison to some of the other stories that we've reported on with what people do with friends, he actually got off very lucky. If that's all this idiot did was set up a camera, he could have been raping his daughter or something.
Oh yeah. I'm just talking about the reaction from the father. Like, this is my friend.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway.
This was my friend.
Right.
We got
Notice I didn't say anywho.
You just did.
No, I said anyhow.
You just said anywho.
Any what?
Man, I'm telling you, there's something's happened to you since you've moved up to wherever the hell you are. I keep waiting for random weather reports.
Yeah, tornadoes coming through, and it's tearing the corn up.
And crop statuses.
Yeah, from 33 cent an ear, 13 cent an ear.
Your accent is actually changing less from the South and more like my old man.
Well, you talking about my voice?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm evolving.
I guess you could call it that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Boy dies.
Yes. We have a story out of Indiana. This is the one that actually I just put up last night. So that's
it's trending.
Yeah, I guess it is. And I guess I can see why. This gentleman here, Curtis Coleman, put him up on the screen there for you so you can see that beautiful face. He's extremely happy with this mugshot. He's the guy that was I guess they didn't go into a lot of detail on the family dynamics, but for whatever reason, he was watching his 8-year-old son. His name is, I want to get his kid's name right more than I wanted his, and Gilbert.
Kid's Curtis.
Oh, yeah. I am. You're absolutely right. The gentleman's picture you saw is Gilbert Coleman, 41 years old. His son is 8-year-old Curtis Coleman. And he was watching his son the other day in a house with no electricity. And when the boy got up or whatever he was doing, he wanted to eat breakfast. And he saw a plate with what he thought was cereal, which he ate. But it turns out it was actually meth on the plate. And, of course, there's a lot of questions in the comments on how the hell a kid can mistake cereal or meth for cereal. And on top of that, how could he have kept eating the? I mean, it's not going to taste good. But I guess it depends on how big the first spoonful was. But regardless, however much he ingested, police said it was enough to kill a man. And as you can imagine, the kid went into pretty quick medical distress. And when Gilbert found his son was suffering, and they don't say this in the article, but you know goddamn well he knew exactly what had happened because he could see right there what had happened. But
and his meth was missing.
And his meth was missing. So when the kid starts having medical issues from eating the meth, instead of calling 911, of course, he decides to call a female friend who comes over and tells the guy exactly what any sane person would say, that you need to call 911. This kid needs to get to a fucking hospital. And this dude says, no, that's not happening, and supposedly holds a gun to the girl or to the lady and takes her cell phone away so she can't call 911, and decides to load his son up in the car and drive to his parents' house, which they did. And once they got there, the boy was already turning blue, and that's when Gilbert decided to start performing CPR on the kid, and the boy's grandfather ended up calling paramedics. But of course, it was too late. I don't know how long this transpired, but there was a comment by one of the police officers who said that, quote, you have an 8-year-old child that most likely suffered for many hours. It upsets you. So I don't know if that's a fact that it took actual hours for this kid to die, but I can imagine in the time it took for the dad to find the boy, freak out, probably tried to do something with the kid, clean up a little bit, call the friend come over, they argue, he pulls the gun, they load his ass up, take him to his parents where he turns blue, they try CPR, call the paramedics who then come to the residence. So I'm imagining this was not a 10-minute scenario.
No, we're looking at 2 hours.
I don't know. They don't say, but
unless they live close by.
But going by what the cop said, it wasn't a quick death at all. So, like I said, the boy died, and Gilbert was arrested, and he has been charged with neglect that led to the death of a dependent and possession of meth, pointing a firearm, theft, and, of course, failure to register as a sex offender, which is the cherry on top because Gilbert has a previous criminal record, including trafficking and sexual misconduct conduct with a minor.
Exactly the guy that you would want watching your kid in a trailer with no electricity.
And that's
probably why the kid ate the meth. It was dark in there. I mean, shit, he couldn't see what he was doing.
Or it was suicide.
What was going on.
It could have been suicide. You never know.
Could have been.
We got a video here. I'm going to see if this actually plays or not.
Yeah, he's definitely pissed off.
Oh, yeah, he's not happy.
In that mugshot.
Now, I was talking about mugshots a minute ago. Well, this guy's got the pissed off mugshot look instead of the putz look.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. I had to go to the actual news site to play this. If it actually wants to. Yeah, there it goes.
This father is accused of letting his...
Oh, yeah, he doesn't look happy. And I know you guys aren't seeing this real time, but you will see it if you're watching on the live channel. He does not look fucking happy at all.
Ticked.
Son die after the
you gotta wonder how many more steps, how much further he would have gone if his dad hadn't called the cops. I could see him. Okay, I'm going to take him. I'm going to place. My buddy will help me out. You just drag this poor damn kid all over town.
Well, I'm curious what he thought the lady was going to do when she got over there. Like, what the fuck was she going to do?
The whole thing reminds me of that scene from Pulp Fiction. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. Where Uma Thurman overdoses and John Travolta takes him to the buddy's house. So I don't know. Maybe that was in the movies to call a friend.
Or maybe they've ran into something like this before, where somebody had overdosed on meth before, and maybe he thought she might have some insight into. On how to fix it. The whole thing just sounds completely retarded. Everything he did was the absolute wrong thing to do.
Right. He failed at everything.
Yeah, and I bet he doesn't know CPR either.
No, he's probably blowing in his face.
Right, blowing in his face.
Breaking the kid's ribs.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I would have to say, just with my own kid, if I had, it's always easy to say what you would do, but I would gladly just go to fucking prison if they can get a paramedic there as quick as possible. But looking at this guy's record, I don't think that he probably puts many people in front of himself.
And the question is, was he using at the time? Was he on meth?
I bet he was shortly after he found his kid.
And the other question is, sometimes when someone asks you to do something that you don't want to do, like watching your kid when you'd rather be doing meth in your trailer in the dark, sometimes you'll do a really bad job of it just so that you don't get asked to do it again. And, maybe this was his attempt to, get out of ever having to watch the kid again, and it just went a little bit more wrong.
I see what you're saying. So he was trying to employ the do it badly so you don't get asked to do it again tactic, and he did this by putting a bunch of meth in a Captain Crunch box.
Right.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. All right, I'm going to play the rest of this video here real quick, and we'll see if they give any more info. I never watched this video, so they may actually answer a couple questions, but we'll see.
Boy died last June of what police called an extreme overdose. It happened in Seymour, Indiana.
Oh, they're calling it an extreme overdose.
Investigative reporter Natalia Martinez sat in that courtroom today. And Natalia, you found out this father had multiple opportunities to actually step in and help his son.
That's one of the saddest parts of all of this. That little boy suffered for about 5 hours before he passed. His father not only...
Oh, holy shit. You guys are going to hear this in a second, but they said that he suffered for 5 hours. 5 hours, this kid OD'd on meth.
And there's nothing they can do at that point.
Holy shit, man. I mean, I knew it was a horrible death, even if it had been 20 minutes, but I did not think 5 hours. Man, they really need to string this guy. And I don't normally ever say shit like that. I usually kind of stay out of the punishment side of things of some of these people, but to watch your kid OD on meth for 5 hours and not do anything is absolutely bonkers to me. Absolutely fucking crazy.
Yeah. That's about as lame as it gets.
And he never broke down. Oh, okay, well, we should call. You know, he never.
Yeah, you're right. It was the grandfather that
never
eventually
thought the
called.
thing to do.
All right. Well, that's some more depressing info. So let me see if they give any more here. It was a cute kid too. Not that if it had been ugly, it'd have been any less tragic, but still.
Him the help he needed,
Right.
but he stopped others from calling 911.
8-year-old Curtis Coleman was in 2nd grade, seen here smiling and happy. But police say his life ended because of 2 things: his father and his father's meth.
Anybody that is a parent, you know, it would be emotionally upset.
He's an actual psychopath. When you see him walking, it's like he doesn't give 2 shits what's going on.
The boy told his father he was hungry. That's when detectives believe the child started eating what he thought was cereal on a plate. Instead, he was eating his father's crystal meth, consuming 180 times the lethal limit.
Just your worst nightmare as a parent.
But prosecutors say that parent, Curtis...
I wish I'd have watched the fucking video before I wrote the article. He ate 180 times the lethal limit.
Damn.
Coleman, who should have come to his aid, did just the opposite. They claim Coleman threatened his friend at gunpoint if she called for help and stopped his own parents from calling 911 too. By the time they were able to, it was too late. All the while, the boy was having seizures and convulsing.
A 8-year-old child that more than likely suffered for many hours. It upsets you.
Coleman's previous record includes trafficking and sexual misconduct with a minor. He'd also taken police on a high-speed chase. Thursday, he asked for a bond reduction so he can wait for trial at home, while prosecutors ask for the maximum sentence.
50 years would be nice.
The original bond was set at $50,000 cash. Coleman asked it to be $5,000 instead. The judge will make that decision tomorrow.
Okay, I got to do a follow-up on this one because this is what this jackass did. After all that, they want to try to get a 50-year sentence on the guy, right? And when he went to court here recently, they set his initial bond has been set at $50,000. He actually went to court and asked that his bond be reduced to $5,000 so he can wait at home before the trial. And they said that that the judge was going to rule on that on the next day. So I need to do an update or at least look and see. I know he didn't get the $5,000. That's a given. But I'm curious if it got set even higher than that. In fact,
yeah.
I might look that up
Hopefully
now.
it did.
Well, we're going to find out.
Be set high enough that he can't afford it. Whatever they set it at. He doesn't need to be out running around.
Well, we're going to find out here because I want to see. See, the last one was August. I seen one for August 3rd on Huffington Post. Here's one 13 hours ago.
That's the definition of depraved indifference.
Yes, it is.
And with your own kid, not that it would be right if it was anyone else's kid, but your own friggin' flesh and blood.
It says when police interviewed Coleman and asked him why he did not call 911, he said he panicked. No, they're not saying what the judge ended up ruling. All right, here's some more info I didn't have at the time. It says, Coleman later admitted to police that while there was no food, he had left some meth on a plate. Police found the drug after executing a search warrant at Coleman's home, and they believe the child mistook the drugs for food and ate it. So it doesn't necessarily...
Who the hell puts meth on a plate? That much meth leaves it laying around on a plate. It sounds like a setup to me.
Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, now everything's making a little bit more sense. It says, Coleman said the boy woke him up because the child was hungry, but told the boy there was no food in the house and went back to sleep. So the boy obviously went out into wherever and saw this shit sitting on a plate. Doesn't necessarily mean he thought it was cereal, like my original article was stating. He just thought it was food, and he ate it. It said a clear glass plate was located in the kitchen area, and it was brownish in color, crystal-like substance on it, according to the probable cause affidavit. So when Coleman woke again later that morning, he said his son was not acting right. He called a friend around 10 a.m. and said he needed help, but when she tried to call 911, Coleman ripped the telephone out of her hand, pointed a gun at her, and said he would kill all three of them. The woman then left. Holy shit. Coleman then went to the house of the child's mother with the boy. She also wanted to call 911, but Coleman prevented her from doing so. And then 911 was finally called 45 minutes later about the boy not breathing, which must have been from the grandfather. So, yeah, that whole story just got a hell of a lot worse than I thought it could get. So I guess what would he have done? He called the friend, so the friend comes over. He fucking says he's going to kill him if she calls 911, so she just leaves. We don't know what she did. Then he went to the child's mother's house, didn't let her call, and then eventually went to his parents' house. So yeah, I guess that was hours of panicking and driving around, being just an absolute lech, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't even understand that mentality.
Well, trying to keep from taking responsibility for it, which didn't work, obviously.
I'll keep an eye on that one as it goes through the courts, and we'll see what happens to him. I'll probably definitely do an update on this guy. The next dude was the guy out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There's not really much to this one. I don't know if any more details came around, but I don't think there really needs to be. This is a guy that got stabbed to death at a daycare after getting into an argument with another man about him being parked in a handicapped parking space. And we had a slew of those stories come in all at the same time of parking lot disputes. Aside from this one, there was a lady that got attacked at Walmart because she asked a dude to move the cart. He was one of those jackasses that can't seem to walk their fat ass far enough to just put the cart in the fucking cart holder. And he just kind of rolled it up against a parking lot divider, kind of blocking her car in. And because she asked him to move it, he attacked her, and there was some video of that one. Then we had the handicap parking dispute that was also caught on video, where the dude got into an argument with somebody that was parked in a handicap parking space and ended up shooting the passenger in that car. And aside from the reason why the guy was killed, I think that made the news a lot too, because of the laws in that state, which was also Florida, where you can kill somebody if you feel like you're threatened.
I saw footage of that shooting, and it was. I don't think it was a good shooting.
It wasn't a good shooting, but from a legal perspective, I think you would have a hard time getting a jury to convict a guy, only because if you live in Florida and you're listening to this at all, I'll give you a fair warning. If somebody pulls a gun on you, do not walk towards them, because legally they can blow your brains out and probably not be charged with a thing. Yeah, because that's basically what happened.
I think he was justified from what happened. He was justified in pulling it. He was justified in pointing it. But the dude actually had it, and the dude took a step backwards, and he shot him anyhow. You know, there won't be any repercussions for the guy because of the stand your ground laws, like you said.
Right.
Haven't seen the footage. It was not a really good shooting.
And in this particular case, of course, there's no video of this one, but it was a similar circumstance where, who was this guy? Oswald Zambrano was parked in a handicap space at a daycare where he was waiting to pick up his wife, and that's when he was confronted by Julio Ramos. For whatever reason, took great offense to this guy being parked in a handicap parking space. And an argument ensued, and he told, Ramos told the guy in the handicap parking space to get out of his vehicle, which he did. And the guy that got out of the vehicle promptly started beating Ramos's ass, I'm assuming, because that's when Ramos ended up pulling out a 4-inch folding knife, I guess just a pocket knife, and stabbed dude to death over it. I don't think he didn't die immediately. He was in the hospital for a good while, and then eventually he ended up dying. But so now Ramos has been charged with second-degree murder. But man, what a hell of a thing to die for. And I was just with a buddy of mine. We were talking about this because I usually go shooting every Saturday, coincidentally, but. We have to hit the highway to get to the place where we go shooting at, and without fail, if anybody lives in my area, I don't even want to mention the name, but it's a particular highway that's just chock full of fucking idiots because it's kind of an outer loop type highway, and I have extreme road rage, as anybody that knows me or talks to me on the phone while I'm driving can attest to. I have a real bad problem with anger management when it comes to other drivers. And but it used to be back in the day, there used to be a kind of an etiquette between people who were pissed at each other on the road, where you kind of had, it's like hockey. Hockey kind of gives you like a timeout thing, or they give people time to fight.
Yes.
Right. Back in the day with road rage, it was the same way. The two of you could exchange, threats and cursing and bird flipping, and it was, but you did never ever expect or suspect that the other person was going to kill you.
A cap in your ass.
Right. You didn't ever even, that never even came to mind. It was just kind of time for instigating type of thing. And
over.
Right. So, over the years, I have actually, I still get just as angry as I ever did, but I have actually kind of, I've kind of succumbed to just not doing all the bird flipping and hand gesturing anymore, because I just, you call me a chicken shit or not, but I am not fucking dying because some dude cut me off. It's just not happening.
Well, I had a friend of mine that was at a stoplight one day, and he looked up he just happened to stop at the front of the stoplight. He looked up in his rearview mirror, and a guy was getting out of his truck, coming straight by his car, up to him. And he was like, what is this guy doing? And all of a sudden, he had his windows rolled up, so he's like looking in the rear view now. He's looking in the door mirror, and he realizes the guy's going, fuck you, motherfucker, or something like that is what he said. And he's like, and he's looking pissed off. And he's almost approaching his car. I mean, he's almost there. And he just went through the red light and said later.
It's just, it's just totally not worth it. It takes all the fun of being able to road rage, because my general philosophy when I drive, and admittedly, I'm an aggressive driver, but I'm also extremely aware of what's going on around me and whatnot. But
absolutely.
But I have a general philosophy that I don't really give a shit what other drivers are doing. I don't care if you squeeze in between me and the car and the car in front of me. I don't give a shit about any of that. I don't care if you pull out in front of me, even though there's nobody behind me. I don't care about any of that as long as whatever you do. No, as long as whatever you do doesn't make me change what I was already doing. So if you don't make me take my foot off the gas and put on the brake, I don't give a shit. You can drive like a jackass for all I care.
You weren't going to do that anyway.
Just don't make me hit my brakes. Don't make me swerve. Don't make me do any of that kind of shit, and I could care less. But unfortunately, on a daily basis, I am surrounded by what seems to me are absolute fucking morons on a daily basis, multiple times back and forth. I deal with this, and it just seems to have gotten a lot worse in my area as more and more neighborhoods keep getting built. I get surrounded by more and more of these absolute morons of all creeds and colors. There doesn't seem to be any common thread. They are just idiots.
You don't learn this shit in school. You just know it, right?
Well, I just don't know. I don't know what they don't teach you. They never taught me anything like that in school. It was just kind of common sense that says when you are entering into a highway, it makes logical sense not to be doing 15 fucking miles an hour. It just seems like common sense would tell you that. Just as it would tell you that if you are in the right-hand lane and there's a lane of people coming in to the highway, that just let them in. There's not a contest here, because I just had some jackass do that to me the other day where I was coming into the highway, and they wanted to play that stupid game where they wouldn't let me over, and it was one of those short entrance ramps where you don't have that much time before you're in the emergency lane. And they wanted to play that stupid game, and I just could not possibly fathom what the mentality was behind that. Why would you not let me over? And I drive a big ass fucking truck.
Yeah.
So that's why.
This story shows, what can happen when you act like that. They may do that to the wrong person one day and end up getting stabbed to death, and that's the thing for me. People are crazy anymore, and you don't know who you're dealing with, what they're capable of, and it's like you said, it's just not worth it. But people who do stuff like that, that's this is a perfect example. This guy decides he's going to be the parking police. He's going to run his mouth to someone because he doesn't like where they're parked, and he paid for it.
Oh yeah,
and that doesn't make it right. But the fact of the matter is, if this guy had kept his damn mouth shut and not worried about who was parked in a handicapped spot, who was parked where, he wouldn't have got his ass stabbed to death.
Right, and that goes all the way, circles back around to where I just don't understand exactly why anybody really gives that much of a shit about it. Do I like seeing somebody do it? No. Do I like seeing somebody double park? No. Do I like when somebody pulls up beside my truck and gives me an inch to open up my fucking door? Absolutely not. Do I want to rage over it? Absolutely, I do. Hell, I'm doing it right now. But I would never, ever, ever, well, in my brain I may fantasize about flaying them alive, but I would never physically think that somebody deserves a death sentence because they parked in a handicapped space when they shouldn't have.
Right.
But like I said, like you said, you just don't know who you're dealing with any longer. And maybe it's always been like that. Maybe it's just something that I'm just noticing more now because I'm reading about it and writing about it. But I swear to God, I don't remember this being a big phenomena of people getting killed over arguments over parking spaces. At least I don't remember it ever being one, because I would have would have remembered writing about it.
It's like we said, fuck you and flip the bird, and it was done. But nowadays, it's a little different.
It's different with every fucking thing. Everybody is outraged over everything. I think people are just on this knife's edge lately. Like, it didn't have anything to do with the handicap parking space. That was just the thing that broke the camel's back, I guess.
That was just something for him to get bent out of shape about.
That's almost what it looks like. It's like everybody is just on edge lately. It's just fucking. It's crazy. I don't know. I'd rather just not get in any physical confrontation with anybody. For one, just for the record, I mean, I'm armed, and I don't personally want to actually have to shoot somebody, and not because I would probably have any remorse over it if they were threatening my life. I don't think I'd have any issues with that part. It would just be the after effects of that, what was going to happen to you, especially, well, I could get into a whole subject on that, and I'm not going to do that in this podcast. We'll save that one for another one. But point being is, I would rather not end up having to shoot somebody because we're arguing at the fact that they, pulled out in front of me. That just seems like a big waste of everybody's time. I'd rather just go home.
And I looked. I don't see any updates on this one.
All right, thank you. I was curious.
Not much to update. One dude's dead, the other dude's in jail.
Let's see here. Who do we have next here? Oh, yeah. This was the big one. I really thought this would be higher up because a lot of people were talking about this story, and there's a lot of info that has come out on this. This was the one out of Colorado where the grandfather ended up shooting a home intruder who was attacking his 11-year-old grandson, and then he in turn ended up getting shot and killed by the responding police. So I'm not going to read this article because I've already know everything about this one. So just in summary, you got a 73-year-old man, his wife, his son, and his grandson are all asleep at the grandfather's house when some idiot, I don't know if more details have come out on this guy or not, but some idiot, they think he came from a house party nearby. They don't know what was wrong with him yet. At least when I reported on this the first time, they still hadn't released if he was under some type of influence of something. But for whatever reason, some guy kicked in the door and immediately started attacking the 11-year-old who was sleeping on a couch. And he drugged the 11-year-old into a bathroom, and from the reports, he was either assaulting him or trying to drown him in a bathtub. And, of course, with all the noise and the ruckus, everybody in the house woke up, and that's when the boy's father and the boy's grandfather, 73-year-old Richard Gary Black, a war veteran from the Vietnam War, started scuffling with this dude to pull him off the 11-year-old. The 73-year-old man ended up getting hit in the head with a vase of some type. So he said, fuck this, ran and grabbed his handgun, came back and shot this guy and killed him in the chest. Now, the initial article that I wrote, because I was basing it off the articles that I link, was that the wife, while all this was going on, had called 911 and had gave descriptions of the attacker, who at the time was supposedly nude, but I think that's now been disputed. But that the attacker was nude, that she gave descriptions of both her husband and of the attacker. And police who were on the scene when Gary shot the man ended up seeing Gary with the handgun and instinctively shot and killed him. And that's kind of where the story ended when I first reported on it. And as you can imagine, the majority of the people were against the police officer. Didn't understand how this could happen, especially since I guess at the time it looked like he had actually been shot and killed from outside of the house, that the officer wasn't even in the house when he shot and killed Gary. And some of the sentiment wasn't helped too much by the lawyer that represents the family, was making some statements that made it seem like that this was a 100% totally unjustified shooting. And I guess since I posted that article, some more info's come out, and that also included the 911 call and the body cam footage, which has not been released to the public, and it probably never will, but has been reviewed, and the family of Gary has seen it and has asked for it not to be made public. But what it turns out, it looks like the extra details were the wife actually made the phone call from outside of the house. And according to the people that have heard it, it's a very, very chaotic, frantic 911 call. She does not give any type of description of the attacker or her husband. And in fact, a lot of the 911 call was, you couldn't even understand what she was saying. But what you could hear was her saying that he had a gun. And so when the officers arrived at the scene, they heard the gunshot of Gary killing this attacker. And when Gary comes to the door, or one of the open, I don't know if it was a front or back door, but when he was coming to the door, he still had the handgun and a flashlight in his hand, and did not comply at all to the commands of the officers to tell him to drop the gun. And when he raised his arm up, the officer ended up shooting him. Now, as to why he did not comply to the commands to drop the gun, the theory is that Gary had suffered some extreme hearing loss because of his duty, his active duty in the Vietnam War, and he just didn't hear the commands being issued to him. So what it's looking like, and of course this is all speculation because I don't know if there's been any updates to this since even the update I've already made on it, was the fact that this is just one of them fucking tragic things that shit like this happens. The only person really to blame in any of this is the guy that's already dead, who attacked that broke into the house and attacked the boy.
Yeah, the one that started it all.
Right. Now, I don't know, like I said, if there's been any more updates, but at this point in time, I can almost guarantee you that nothing will happen out of this. I almost guarantee you. You never know. But I think that since the family, and they're already reporting that they've seen the footage and they've heard the 911 call, I think it's just a hard pill to swallow that they ended up losing a guy that just saved maybe all their lives that night. And it's just a tragic story all the way around for everybody involved. And especially that 11-year-old. Can you imagine that shit? You're spending the night at your fucking grandparents' house, and this happens in the space of 15 minutes. You're getting your ass beat and drowned in a bathtub by a stranger you've never met before. To see a man get killed by your grandfather, who then gets killed by the police, all in the span of probably minutes.
Yeah.
Here's some interesting, it's not an update on the shooting, but it's some interesting additional information. I'm looking at 9news.com, and this guy, this naked intruder, they're referring to him as a naked intruder. So maybe this was published, updated the 2nd, so 2 days ago. Says the naked intruder who was shot and killed by an Aurora homeowner earlier this week was Dejon Harper, a 26-year-old known gang member.
Huh.
He has a long criminal history, convicted of aggravated motor vehicle theft at age 14, been arrested numerous times, in and out of prison, was released in February from Colorado Department of Corrections, juvenile convictions, starting as early as when he was 11, adult criminal record starting at 18 with trespassing, distribution, child abuse, attempted murder, domestic violence, assaulting a police officer, theft. So this was not just a nice guy that wandered in.
Okay, it just happened to be like Robert Downey Jr. back in.
Yeah.
When he wandered into that 12-year-old girl's bedroom.
Yeah, there's a. Yeah, and they're saying again he grabbed the kid and dragged him to a bathroom, attacked him.
Wow.
So, yeah, that sounds like. You know, it could have turned out a lot worse than it did. You know, obviously it turned out badly because an innocent person was killed. But this could have been one of those ones where the whole family ended up getting killed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just found another article where they're saying that the officer, I do know the officer himself is a military vet. And supposedly he's like really fucked up over this whole thing. But they're not releasing his info because they're already getting death threats against him. And he was also he killed another person in June. So that might not be helping his case at all.
No. What's the other one?
Says the officer who has not been identified because of threats that reportedly been received was placed on desk duty after the shooting at the Biltmore Motel in June. 3 officers pursued a suspect after arriving to a report of shots fired at the motel. As officers rounded the corner of a building, they came face to face with a suspect. They told him to drop his gun. One officer then shot the suspect, who was taken to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. He must have been the officer who actually shot and killed that guy. So this guy, and again, I'm not all into the bash police whenever I get a chance to do it. But this guy could just be one of those dudes who may not be unlike myself in regards to, if you have a gun and you are not dropping it and I'm a cop, then I hate to say this, and I would probably be the one getting death threats myself, but I'm going home. I'm going home that night. And if you have a firearm and I'm a cop with a gun on you and you do not drop it when I tell you to, I am probably the guy that will end up shooting you. I mean, just being honest. Just being honest. I'm not going to be one of those ones that's going to
Let me tell you.
Give you a time limit.
When they talk, when a guy that has the right to hold that gun, and he's authority, he's the law, he's telling you, and you're face to face with this dude, and he's pointing right at you. Well, you better drop it, or guess what? Time's up.
I mean, I don't. You hear all the, and I agree. I mean, there are arguments against that, of course. Of course, you got the bad ones out there that are probably itching to shoot and kill somebody, I would imagine. But
right, and this guy could have been like a trigger happy, what the fuck I'm doing guy. We don't know. I mean, was the other guy unarmed in the first incident? Was he armed? Do we know?
Who?
In the first one, there was a guy. The guy that when they faced the guy, he was armed.
Well, I don't know if he was. Yeah, because they were telling him to drop the gun.
To drop it. So yeah. So when you're under investigation, then you get another one.
My whole point is I'm saying that if there may be a cops out there that if they tell somebody to drop the gun and they don't drop it, that they may not actually take that as a sign to blow the person's brains out. I'm just saying that if I was a cop, I am the guy that would probably blow your brains out. I mean, for better or for worse, I'm just saying that my mentality would be that if I have a gun trained on you, the criminal, and you have a firearm that you're not dropping as I'm telling you to do so, my assumption is you intend to harm me with that fucking gun.
Right.
That's just my mentality of it. But I'm not saying that's right or wrong, and I'm sure that there's cops out there that may not do that. That they may have, I don't know, more patience, or I don't know what they would have, but
right.
Maybe not so trigger happy, but.
Right. I mean, they're just like everything. There's different cops. Some cops may wait 3 times. They may tell you 3 times to drop it.
I would make a horrible cop. I know that. I would make a horrible cop. So if that says anything, because I would be quick to shoot. I probably would be too tempted to steal drugs from drug dealers. I don't think I would be a good cop at all. I think I would probably end up being one of the bad ones. And then I'd end up being all over the news for something stupid. Not for any racial thing where I'm out picking off black people or anything. It would probably be something that I got busted doing something shady and using my badge.
I think it would be you shot someone and you had your own special homemade bullets.
No, it would probably be more like that they would find a bunch of evidence in my closet or... That I was letting... You remember the cops that used to pull us over and then they'd let you go if you gave them your stuff? I remember that. And or the ones that would... we've had some very odd encounters. And I remember the South Carolina cops that would actually would let you go, especially if anybody who was driving to Myrtle Beach and had to cut through any of those shit towns like McBee and Jefferson and them that if you were to get pulled over, that you could get out of getting a ticket if you didn't mind parting with the cash in your wallet. So I could see myself doing some stupid shit like that.
Yeah. South Carolina is one of those odd states where you can pay fines right there. Always thought that was a system that lends itself to abuse a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've heard so many stories over the years of people that have encountered that exact situation. Luckily, I haven't had any that I remember instances with police officers going to in South Carolina. I know you did, Pagan. Have some. I know you.
Hello.
Yeah, didn't you rearrange some guys' motorcycles and ended up having to deal with some deal with some police officers in South Carolina?
Well, hey. On my behalf, I was asleep in the back seat. I didn't know shit till I woke up, and we were facing the other direction, and I saw steam coming out of my friggin' hood that was crushed in, and I'm like, what the frig's going on? And I realized that we've been in an accident. And then I look over, this trailer askewed, damaged, and a big Oldsmobile, Buick, I don't know, something like that, 4-door, huge tank that was pulling this trailer. And I'm walking out trying to figure out what's going on. My buddy's over there like mumbling, but he's okay. And then I go over there and, go to the back door and open the back door and look at this dude, and he's wrapped up in a blanket looking like Grizzly Adams, looking at me going, I don't know, he's just looking at me with a shotgun. So things turned very interesting a little later. But anyways, won't go into details, but what happened was we were heading to Myrtle Beach to a Budweiser beer fest. And that was the reason we were going. We just left a big party and heading there, and Buddy nodded off in the car about, 45, 50 miles from Myrtle Beach after 100. And that's what we woke up to.
Yeah, and the point being is that if anybody's never encountered them, state troopers in general, especially in South Carolina, are notoriously mean, man. The state troopers, at least in the Carolinas, and it could be across the United. I have no idea. I haven't encountered them everywhere, but I just know they're mean as hell, or put out that persona. But I've never had a fucking nice one. I've always had jackasses. Police officers in general. Everyone I've ever encountered, not counting just a minor traffic infraction, but some other instances that I've run afoul with them, they've always been total jackasses. And I don't know if it was because of the way we looked. I know Metal, as you can tell by his name, it sounds like we all kind of grew up. We probably all could have hung out together. In our early ages. I think we probably all looked like we came out of the same crowd, but I don't know if that had something to do with it, that they instantly saw us as hoodlums or whatnot, so they were immediately jackasses. But man, never had good experiences with them.
It damn sure doesn't help.
No, it absolutely did not. They were just always assholes. I remember we had this and I'm not going to give his name out. We had this fucking guy growing up, and he was older than us by a few years, and he wasn't a bully, but he was an asshole. And I remember one time we used to have these woods. I don't know if people watch Wonder Years at all, but there was an episode that dealt with the woods that were in their area that they used to play in, and that it was getting torn down to put in a neighborhood. And the whole episode revolved around them losing a chunk of their childhood of all the time they spent in the woods. But we had something very similar, where we had a big chunk of undeveloped land that would eventually become an apartment complex, but we called them the trails, and the railroad track ran through them. So they were a perfect haven for kids on bikes to get in trouble and ride around, fuck around with the trains and all that kind of shit. So
the early teens was just hanging out, riding the trails, jumping the hills, etc., putting some pennies or nickels or quarters, whatever you had in your pocket, putting it on the track, waiting for the train to come by. Later, I don't know, was there a later?
No,
at that location?
No, there wasn't. It was basically, but
right.
We were out there hanging out with this fucking jackass, and for whatever reason, he pulls his pants down and he talks one of this other kid we hung out with who was our age, got him to pull his pants down, and was combing his fucking pubic hairs with a comb, and he was trying to get all of us to do the same thing. Oh, it feels great, man. Pull your pants down and comb your pubes. And I'll never forget me and my brother, and it may have been you and some other people, just laughed at him and the other guy that we were hanging out with. Just laughed at him. It was it's fucking retarded, and we left. But at the time, the implications of it, I wasn't thinking as an adult. I was thinking as a kid. But even that I knew was fucked up. I mean, who the hell does that? And this guy was, 3 or 4 years older than us, which could have been 20 years older as far as I was concerned. But
if we were probably 12, and he was probably about 15, 16.
But that guy, that dude ended up becoming a cop and patrolled our fucking neighborhood, and it was just
wow.
Yeah, and I'll never forget all of
Sergeant Slippy.
Dude, I will never forget this was the guy, and we had another dude that was his friend. He tried to become a cop, and they wouldn't let him in for reasons I'll never know, but he got busted jacking off in his car in a drugstore parking lot. So it was just like, were we surrounded by fucking pedophiles when we were growing up or something? And they all tried to become cops. But that jackass, we used to hang out at a 7-Eleven. There was a payphone on the side of it and a laundromat beside that. So there was a little alleyway that I used to park my 71 Maverick Grabber up beside the payphone. And that's where we would hang all day. We would sit there with the radio blaring, and we didn't have cell phones back then, but everybody knew that payphone number. So people would get, it was like an office phone. It would ring, you'd answer it, and they'd be like, "Hey, is there a Tommy?" or whatever. But we were all hanging out there, and I guess somebody had called that we were being a nuisance or whatever, and so a cop comes up, and it was that fucking jackass dude. It was him, comes up to me and takes me to the side and tells me if I can get my gang to move, and I'm like, dude, I don't know all these fucking people. I'm just here. I'm just here. But
I didn't know you had a gang, Morbid.
I didn't. We were just all hanging. But anyway,
perceived that way.
I just seen that fucking guy come walking up with that attitude, and I wish I had the balls then to say, "Fuck you!" I remember you combing your damn dick hairs with a bunch of little kids in the woods.
Yeah, if we had the technology then as we do today, we'd say, "Oh, hold on a minute. Yeah, there it is."
Well,
the pic.
I wish I could.
You combing your dick.
I actually looked him up on Facebook. I was trying to see if I could find out what he's doing now. And just as an aside, after this podcast is over, there are a few people, Pagan, if you try to look them up on Facebook, you ain't gonna find shit on them. Not a thing on any of them. So I'm real curious as to why that is. Anyway, so we'll keep an update on this shooting situation. Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of more info that's going to come out on this, but from that last article, and I wish I would have linked it because now I can't seem to find it from when I made my updated comment, but the family did hear the 911 call and see the body cam footage, but they have asked for it not to be released, so we won't be seeing that, I don't think. Which I know a lot of people were waiting for to make their own decisions. Here's one out of North Carolina. This will bring up a nice little law that a lot of people didn't know existed, but I sure knew it existed. This is the man that was awarded $8.8 million from the man who had an affair with his wife.
Yeah, that was a hook for me. Like you said, a lot of states don't have the alienation of affection laws that we do in North Carolina. I guess it's North Carolina and 5 other states. It's one of those things that it's an old tort law that most places have gotten rid of. We haven't. Every time there's a big lawsuit involving it comes up, and the legislature's reviewed it a few times. It's been to the state Supreme Court at least once that I know of, and the state Supreme Court upheld it. But I guess what it boils down to is if you have a married couple and someone interferes with that marriage and destroys the quote genuine love and affection in that marriage, they can be sued for civil damages. In essence, state law treats that bond as if it's real property that can be damaged, and if real property is damaged, then that's legally actionable. And that's the way alienation of affection works. And so you don't even have to interfere sexually in a relationship. You can be someone who pokes their nose into a relationship, talks one of the two people into getting a divorce, and next thing you know, if you're in North Carolina, your ass is getting sued. Other than that, it's a typical tawdry divorce. Really, the thing that interested me about it was the alienation of affection, and the criminal conversation is the other piece. A lot of states don't have this, but in North Carolina, if you have sex with someone who's married, you can get sued for that too. in a civil suit. The thing to remember is in a civil suit, the standard of proof is different. In a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a fairly high standard. In a civil suit, at least if it's just one where money's involved, there's no jail time involved. It's a preponderance of evidence, which is that just means that more evidence points to it being true than not. So it's a lot easier to lose a civil case than it is a criminal case if you're the one who's done something wrong. Iterated into the top 10 and hung in there. I honestly, when I wrote it, I didn't figure, because it's really not that interesting of a case. I didn't think that it would really get that much traction. I just wrote it again because of the alienation of affection. But it was a pretty nasty little divorce. Guy marries a woman a lot younger than he is. This guy's obviously he's a former professional BMX bike competitor, owns a BMX bike stunt show company, whatever in hell that is. Still rides in his shows, and this is an older dude, and that BMX shit is that's tough stuff. It's stuff that's for the younger guys, and so if you see the picture of this guy from some of the court hearings, he looks like a pretty tough dude. Apparently, the marriage was bad from the start. He, didn't let her have any money, manipulative, mean to her, made her work all the time, and so she met something younger and nicer at a trade show, and this dude chased her all over, and she ended up splitting up with her husband, and this guy ended up, man she's having an affair with, put her in a little love nest, and just all sorts of wonderful things happened, and it ended up, like you said, with a lawsuit. And the dude, who was the guy's name that got sued? Keith King was the fella. Francisco Huziar III was the guy who got sued. 8.8 million. It was 2.2 million compensatory damages rather, and the rest was punitive. And he didn't even bother showing up for the lawsuit, so he just had an automatic judgment entered against him. So he didn't even bother fighting it.
Well, I'm wondering how that kind of shit works too, man, because there's no way that guy's got $8.8 million. So I don't even know if he has to even worry about it. I don't know if they take a lien out on your future earnings or something. Is that how that works in a lawsuit? I mean, I don't know how that would even work.
I think usually with civil suits, if someone doesn't pay, you have to go back to court to force them to pay. So I don't know if that's how it would work in this case, but it's certainly you're not guaranteed the money, especially if the guy doesn't have it.
It's a bullshit law, regardless. I mean, it's just total bullshit to me. I'm not saying that somebody, we can get to the karma thing on messing around with a married woman, right? But that dude did not ruin that marriage, No,
that marriage was ruined way before that guy got involved.
Right. And the husband, he had actually gotten into a scuffle with his wife's new lover, to where he says he's suffering from PTSD because he got put in a headlock by the other guy.
Right.
That video's out there, and you can watch it. And holy shit, dude! I cringe. He looks like a whiny bitch about his ex-wife. He keeps screaming, "You're choosing him over me!" And you just want to say, dude, fucking, it's over. It's over.
There you go. It's just pride.
Dude, could it be that worth it? I mean, is all this worth? Is she worth all this shit you're going through? Supposedly his business at one point was pulling in this BMX stunt shit that he was doing, was pulling in like $500 and something thousand a year. And by the time of all these divorce proceedings, or at least leading up to them, he was down to doing $100,000 a year. And my guess is, just because I know certain dudes like this, he has done nothing but focus every bit of his attention on getting this woman, Danielle King, back. That would be my guess. Especially if he went through the hassle of actually suing somebody over this alienation of affection. And the only reason why I knew about this is because I know somebody who wanted to do this to the guy that he knew that his wife was having an affair with. Instead of just leaving her and all that, he stayed with her, and that's what he wanted to do as his form of revenge. was use that law to
get paid.
And he didn't even care about the money any more than this guy gives a shit about the money. He probably already knows that he's not going to get this money. If I can kind of guess his mentality, this is just one big dig. Just one big dig to get back at this guy and her.
Right.
And in that case, he did. I mean, regardless of being paid or not, who wants to hear that you just had an $8.8 million judgment against you succeed? I don't want to hear anything like that. Hell, I don't want to hear an 8,000 one, much less an 8.8 million one. But I want to meet this chick, though. I mean, holy shit, dude. I mean, you got this guy going through all this shit for his ex, and then you got the dude that's willing to get sued for.
She must be magic.
I guess. I mean, she's cute, but that's about it. I don't know. Maybe I just don't know if anybody's worth that. Hell, my own fucking parents ain't worth getting sued for $8.8 million.
8.8? No.
I think you hit the nail on the head. This dude, it's pride with this dude, and I mean you can tell just from what you read about the guy that he's an egocentric, prideful guy, and that's what is tripping his trigger on this whole thing, you know. And it doesn't surprise me that his business took a nosedive, because people who go to watch the stunt things, they don't want to, you know, you get out there and cry in the media like a little girl. That's going to eat into your fan base, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I found the video. Yeah, here it is. I know you guys can't see this real time or anything, but I'm gonna play it. See if you want to go back and watch it. It's pretty kind of hilarious.
A multi-million-dollar payday from the man he says ruined his marriage. All of this comes after a dramatic confrontation caught on camera. BMX stunt show owner Keith King filed a civil complaint citing an obscure law against Francisco Huizar, his wife's lover. King says he found out about the betrayal in 2015 after seeing phone records. He had to prove he was in a happy marriage, and the love was destroyed by the defendant. The judge ruled in his favor, ordering Huizar to pay more than $8.5 million.
What I've endured.
Oh, God damn it! They showed a very small clip of the video, but not the actual full video of him fighting with the guy.
The law known as alienation of affection exists in 6 states, including North Carolina. Huizar says he plans to appeal.
I'm going to find this fucking video now, though. Well, here's a nice screenshot of it. And you'll see it here in a second, but this is the headlock that he supposedly was put into that gave him PTSD. Looks like he's hugging him.
A big tough guy like that.
A jilted husband hits the adult.
I'm trying another video real quick.
A Texas man, Keith King, caught his wife in bed with another man, and instead of focusing solely on his cheating wife, he sued the other man, and he won a nearly $9 million judgment. King certainly had evidence to show the judge. Watch as he catches his estranged wife in bed with her lover, Francisco Huizar.
Here it is.
She's my wife, man. She's my wife. That is my wife, man. You're picking him over me. You're picking him over me now.
Okay, if you saw that video that I just played, it is fucking embarrassing. And I'm not trying to come off as some machismo type of fucking meathead. I'm saying that what he did was absolutely shamefully embarrassing. If you catch your wife or husband in bed with somebody else, that is like the last way you should possibly act. I'm not saying don't be shocked, don't be upset, and all that. But don't be sitting there whining, that's my wife, man.
Punch.
You just leave. It's over. It's done. Just leave.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why even get into all that? Hell, you should be thanking the fucking dude. Probably just saved you a future headache.
Yeah, give him the real cool handshake, you know?
Yeah, enjoy that.
All right, bruh.
That's my wife, man. That's got my dog barking. Okay.
Yeah, like, that's my bitch, man.
The next one's out of Apple Valley, Minnesota. Oh, geez, I forgot about this guy. This picture you're seeing here, this is a 18-year-old Roman Adams. He suffers from some type of mental disabilities. They haven't been particularly clear on what those disabilities are, but one of them is he does not like waiting in lines, as was apparent at a water slide that he was at Tuesday at the Apple Valley Aquatic Center. He was with a lot of other people waiting to go down a water slide. They were 30 foot up on a platform when he decided to pick up a 8-year-old boy in front of him and heave his ass over the railing. And the boy ended up landing on the concrete below and got some nasty fractures to both of his feet, a broken femur, and a broken bone in his, what the fuck is this? I hate these share things I have on my own site. A broken femur in one of his legs and shattered bones in his shoulder. And I'm pretty sure it's the feet thing that this kid's feeling today. Anyway.
He's got ankle hippolitis.
Yeah. Well, he's been arrested and charged with third-degree assault. And I guess the argument, or not the argument, but the debate right now is... what do you do with people like this? If he was mentally retarded in some way, you know, the police said that I like his comment. The Apple Valley Police Captain Nick Francis said in regards to charging the kid. He says, it's difficult when we have to view someone as a possible suspect that's got some mental disabilities, but our job comes down to determining whether or not a crime took place, whether or not someone knew right from wrong. And he's basically saying what happens after this is up to the courts. But as far as police are concerned, they felt that this kid knew what he did was wrong. And regardless of how, you know, what his mental capacities are or limited they are, he did know right from wrong, so they charged him accordingly. And which I feel is exactly what you should do. And, of course, some other people in the comments were talking about their own personal lives in regards to being parents to autistic children. Some people are blaming the parents, and some people are blaming the aide that the kid was supposedly there with that obviously wasn't watching the boy. But I would also argue there is no way in hell that aide probably figured that this kid was going to chuck a little boy over the railing of a water slide. Who would expect that?
It takes 2 or 3 seconds for that to happen, and by the time you realize what's going on and try to stop it, it's already happened. So, you know.
And we're talking about retard strength. That's like chimpanzee strength.
Yeah, and he was a Roman. Roman Adams.
Roman Adams.
Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, he's got a little gladiator.
Well, I don't know if he understands exactly what's going on with him at this point in time. I don't know how mental that this kid actually was. I would guess it's going to be, they're going to say it was more autistic or autism of some way. But anyway, 8-year-old kid, day at the slide, ends at the hospital with shattered feet. That has to suck.
30 feet, that's a large drop.
Yeah, 30 feet. A damn kid's lucky to be alive, you know?
Yeah,
if he had landed on his feet, it probably would have killed him.
You're damn right.
Let's see here. Family tortured autistic woman forced to eat ashes of her dead mother. My God, we could have done a whole podcast on this fucking inbred-looking family here. Did we talk about this one?
For the week, man.
Yeah,
no, we
should have been. No, we had another inbred family, the ones that were keeping the kid in the barn.
That was eating the sticks in the grass, right?
Right. I'll try to keep this one.
They're probably all related.
They could be. This one's out of Louisiana. I'll try to breeze through this. I didn't realize that we had been going on. It's almost 12 o'clock. I didn't realize that we had been talking so much. From what I can understand, this woman who suffers from some type of mental problems, she's 22 years old, lived with her mother and some other family members in a house, in a trailer, I think it was. And when the mother died, she was left in the care with this other family. That other family being, what was her name? Kayleen and Terry Nope, 23-year-old son Jody Lambert, and Terry's 20-year-old daughter Taylor Nope. And I guess this family has been enjoying at least about a year or so of mentally and physically torturing the 22-year-old woman. And they did all kinds of things to this girl. Aside from the physical beatings with various objects, shooting her with BB guns, having her strip in front of strangers because they thought it was funny. One of the things that they had her do was to eat the ashes of her dead mother as they laughed when she started throwing them back up.
That's just pure evil right there,
dude. That's like movie level shit. Like you couldn't even think that would happen in real life. That's something you'd be describing to somebody else about a movie you saw the night before. Yeah, dude, and they had her eat her dead mother's ashes. But no,
yeah, that's a script.
Yeah, no, this shit actually happened. And the reason why this actually happened all in 2016, but I guess what happened, because I missed this story, or I would have reported on it, and the reason why I missed it was because all those details just came out here within the last week. So this family had already, this lady is already safe. She had already been removed. They had her living in a chicken coop or something out in the backyard. And somebody called about that, and that's when police got involved. So the family's already been charged. I don't know if they're out, if they've been out on bail or anything since then. But she's safe. They have already been charged, but the indictment details just got released to the public here recently, right ahead of their trial, nonetheless. So I thought that was kind of convenient. But the trial is set for August the 13th, and there's all their beautiful pictures. And oh yeah, there was a fifth girl, Bridget Lambert. She's looking at a possible 5 years for forced labor, because what they were doing with this chick was they would have her do all their cleaning. Supposedly they would have her cut grass with scissors, clean out the septic tank without any type of protection. And if she didn't do any of these physical labor demands, she would be threatened with physical punishment. So they were basically using her as some form of a slave at the place where they lived. And one of the charges that got levied at the couple was for sex trafficking, because supposedly they came up with the bright idea that they should pimp her out as well, and they could probably get some more money on top of the Social Security benefits that the Terry Nope was stealing from the lady. It wasn't Social Security. It was the medical stuff she was getting. What is that? What do you get? It's not Social Security.
Theft of government funds, disability.
Thank you. God, yeah, I was about to say I knew that wasn't right, but yeah, he had been stealing that on top of everything else. So all the checks that were coming to the house for her, he was using. Or I'm sure the family was, but he was the one that's been fingered for it. So, yeah, another fucked up family.
I got to say, the law enforcement did a really good job of stacking charges. I mean, the labor law violations, that's just absolutely brilliant. And sex trafficking, I mean, they piled them up good, and these guys deserve it. So
I agree. To the commenter on YouTube, Joe Schmo, you may have missed the very beginning of the podcast, but Jaded is a slack ass. She did not realize we were podcasting tonight, even though she's the reason why we scheduled it for tonight, and the fact that the time of the podcast has been on the top of the front page in the forums for a week. So that's why Jaded's not here. And I'm hoping she's listening right now to see if I can bait her into coming on. But
hi, Jaded.
So that's why she's not here. Nothing's happened to her. She's perfectly fine. She's probably sitting at home right now playing Fallout 4. Not that I blame her, but Fallout 3 New Vegas was much better. Let's see here. Then we have the person who I was not aware was a transsexual, but I guess in hindsight I should have known. But this was out of Chandler, Arizona. 30-year-old Brandon Smith called 911 to report his grandmother was not breathing and looked like she had been beaten up, which was all true because he had done it. He had been left to care for his 89-year-old grandmother who suffers from dementia, and he got fed up with her because she had urinated on herself, and when he took her into the bathroom to give her a bath or a shower, he ended up smacking her so hard she fell unconscious into the bathtub, and deciding that he says that he did not want his grandmother living like this anymore. That beer's coming back up. That he didn't want her living like this anymore. He slit her throat. And they ended up catching him pretty quickly and close by. And he admitted to what he had done, that he had killed his grandmother because he didn't want her living that way. But more than likely, he was just probably sick of taking care of her. Because I was thinking, okay, well, maybe he just panicked because he got frustrated. I know people who have dealt with family members who suffer from dementia and other things, and despite it not being their fault, I can totally understand how somebody can become extremely frustrated in certain situations. So I'm not excusing what he did. I'm just saying that maybe he just became frustrated and lashed out, hit her. She fell into the bathtub, became unconscious. And so let's just say he panicked, and maybe he didn't want her living like this anymore. Why slit her throat? There would have been a much quicker way to kill the lady. So I'm not quite buying all his reasonings to do what he did. Anyway, he's been charged with premeditated first-degree murder. I got a little bit of flack in the commenting sections that I kept calling Brandon Smith a male, using male pronouns. I knew that was going to come up eventually in some of my articles, because I don't really ever go with that, because I don't know this fucking person. They've not told me specifically what pronoun they want me to use, and the news article that I sourced referred to him as a male, as is his name, so he's a male. I didn't want to assume his gender.
Right.
You know, I don't even know the rules anymore. So anyway, somebody posted their Facebook profile. I don't think he gave a shit or gives a shit one way or the other which way you called him, because he didn't seem to get so hung up on it as other people seem to get hung up for him. But anyway, so it wasn't out of any type of disrespect. If you know, I know Pagan asked to be called a she, and I refused to do it, and I will continue to call him by his male gender. And I know that upsets you tremendously, dude, but
damn you! You had to publicly broadcast it.
Yeah, but I mean, not that getting to the whole transgender thing, because I know that's a mucky pile of shit anyway, but unless they specifically say or tell me what they want me to call them, if I respect them enough, I mean, I have no problems doing it. But other than that, you ain't going to force me to do shit. I'll call you whatever I want to call you. And if your name's Brandon Smith and the news article's calling you he, well, guess what I'm doing? Calling you he. What was that comment? I want to find that comment.
Hey,
what's interesting? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to quickly say, are you calling Bruce Jenner Bruce or Caitlyn?
I call him Caitlyn. That's what I mean. I don't have any problems with it. He transgendered. He wants to be called Caitlyn. That's fine. I don't give a shit. That's no skin off my nose to call him whatever he wants me to call him. But I don't have to talk to the fucking guy. But if I am referencing him, I will call him Caitlyn Jenner. If somebody doesn't know who the fuck I'm talking about, then I'll call him Bruce Jenner. But I'm just saying is I will give you the respect you deserve. I don't care who you are. If I like you and I respect you, and you want me to start calling you fucking a car, I would find it stupid, but I wouldn't have any problems to do it because we're friends. But to make a law to force me to call you a fucking car when you are not a car, that's just, you're going to make me not want to do it just to spite you. Let me see here. I wanted to find that comment because it was kind of funny. Oh, here it is. They, referring to me, could at least mention that this person is trans, use female pronouns and so on, instead of making it all confusing. Now, I found that funny, that part. They wanted me to mention they were trans and use female pronouns to not make the article confusing, which just made no sense to me. Very disappointing article.
I'd say the disappointing thing is the fact that somebody's grandmother got killed.
Oh, no, of course, that's not it at all, dude. What are you? You're so fucking insensitive. I've told you about this, dude. No, the tragic thing is the fact that I did not call him a her. Come on now. You
disrespected someone's right to be called what they want to be called.
I think Sugar Pie summed it up 4 hours ago with this fucking disgusting bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I think is really interesting is if you look on the top 10, his story and the story above him, you could exchange the two pictures between those two stories, the thumbnail pictures, and I don't think anyone would know the difference.
No.
If you look at those two, it's just a weird juxtaposition.
It is, and they, in fact, probably if they could ever be put in the same jail,
the crimes probably could have been swapped too.
Yep, they could have. Yep, that's who we're going to get to next. Who is this? Fairmount, West Virginia. She could have actually taken some makeup tips from Brandon, and Brandon could have taken some from her. This is
they could have been teammates.
28-year-old Jaleesa Freeman. There's not much to say about this story that we haven't said. And the list of women that I have below: Catherine Rice, Sarah Adlita, Jessica Bell, Laura Shoulders, Ashley Jessup, and I know off the top of my head 4 other ones. This is another one of those women that decided to sexually assault an infant to share the video with a pedophile online, and she got busted. In this particular case, Jaleesa Freeman got caught recording herself performing oral sex on a 2-month-old. So,
good God.
Yeah. There's not much else with her. She's in the North Central Regional Jail with a bond set $100,000, which means she's not going anywhere. And more than likely, if this follows suit with the rest of them, now they won't give, well, for the most part, they won't give good-looking teachers much jail time for fucking underage students. But the courts do frown very highly on women sexually assaulting babies on camera. They usually will get some pretty good jail time for it.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, the number one story, and we may have talked about it last week because it wasn't on the list last week when it should have been, was the video out of the McDonald's in Las Vegas, Nevada. That was a good one. It's still our number one. I don't remember if it was last week or it hadn't made the charts yet, but it is definitely number one now. I don't know if we want to rehash it, but we can if you never saw it. In fact, I would play the video, but there's some nudity in it that's not cut, and that would get this thing yanked right off of YouTube. So I'd rather not play it.
You'll have to watch it on your own time.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a video, though. It's definitely worth watching. If anyone hasn't seen it, go to the site and watch the video. One of those things that, some people, they don't know how to act in public. Some people have a low frustration tolerance. I guess this is one of these people. Her name was, let's see here. Where is her name? Okay. And that was the toughest part about writing this article, is coming up with something stupid to call her. Every time I mentioned her, I called her something different. That was the hardest part of writing the article, was coming up with dumb names for her, because she deserved it, I felt like. So she went into a McDonald's, did the thing people do, got a water cup, and went to get soda. And the manager, Erica Shavola, turned the soda machine off, which I thought was a brilliant move. That's how you handle that right there. And this little piece of fluff got mad and started cussing and insulting her and throwing stuff, and finally threw a shake and got her ass beat. I mean, there's no two ways about it. This was one of the most one-sided fights I've ever seen in my life. She just, and when the manager, Erica, came out from behind the counter, this girl hit her upside the head with a metal tray. And I don't know where in McDonald's they have metal trays. I guess in Vegas they do. She smacked the shit out of this woman with this tray, and it didn't have any impact at all. Didn't slow her down. It's like it didn't even happen. And she beat her ass. Knocked her titty out of her tube top, and that's the thing. If you're gonna scrap in public, man, your tube top's probably not what you want to be wearing. However, finally, another employee pulls them apart, pulls the one girl that's getting her ass beat away, and she elbows her. So the second employee beats the hell out of her, throws her back to the manager. Manager beats her some more. It's a really, really good video. It was a fun write up. But it's really, the write-up is just play-by-play. They did all the hard work. All I had to do was just say stupid stuff about it. I mean, it's a great video.
It's one of the better fight
over and
videos.
Over again, man.
It's one of the better fight videos for sure. And I'll give the chick that got her ass beat credit. She went back. She went back for more. She didn't run.
She didn't stop. Mm-mm. She did not stop, and that was what I was going to say. That's the one thing I'll give her, is that she didn't back down. She got the worst of it the entire time, and it didn't slow her down a bit. I mean, at the end of the video, she's still running her mouth. So, got to give her credit for that. At least she's got spirit. She's not too smart about who she pisses off, but she got spirit.
We'll see what comes up next week. I'm pretty sure we're going to have and we'll save them for next week so we don't repeat them again. And we already hit 12 o'clock anyway, but we got a couple coming up next week about the two teens that beat their mother to death with a hammer. We got the lady that drowned her daughter in the Florida River. We got your GOP or your ex South Carolina GOP. So we got some more people coming up on top of whatever's going up next week. So, and we still had the guy that found guilty of beating that 3-year-old to death.
Jordan Dumont. Yeah, that was the nasty one. Dumont.
Yeah, he did. He beat that little girl. I mean,
good God,
it was
about brutal.
And So anyway, I hated to rush the end of there. I didn't realize that we'd already gotten. We're already past 12 o'clock. But hey, I don't know if there's anything else to say.
Y'all got the bonus plan tonight.
Yeah, I got I had a letter I was going to read. Now I'll save that until next week. It's not going anywhere. It was kind of cringy. I thought it was kind of humorous, but I'll save it for later. But look, everybody who tuned in again as usual. Thanks. The standard YouTube shit, like the videos, subscribe, all that stuff. But more than ever, just visit the site. We try to get new content up every day. We've been really good on doing that here, especially here lately. I know I went through a slump last year. I got really burned out. I just couldn't write this shit anymore. I think I'm up to, I don't know how many articles I've gotten up to now, but I'm curious myself, so I'm clicking to look.
Play that video while we're closing out. People are asking for it.
Oh, they are? Okay, hold on one second. We'll put it on there. Let me see.
Junk Man.
It's going to, it might get the video pulled, but we'll see, because I know this one's uncensored, so it could pull this one off a video, but since we don't make any money off of any of this shit anyway, we'll go ahead and play it. If it gets pulled, it gets pulled.
Well, the first little bit is safe anyhow.
Yeah, I just don't want to actually sit there and try to censor when their titty pops out. It actually makes the video funnier, so we'll go ahead.
Honest to God, you don't see a whole hell of a lot of it anyhow.
No, we'll see what happens.
Just in the middle of an ass beating.
We're so low tier on YouTube's radar. Although one of the videos that I put where I posted a movie trailer, we got copyright claimed on that one. So I'm like, really? Are you fucking serious? We had like 8 people watching that day, but whatever. Here's the fight.
That's the definition of fair use, dude. It's like getting sued for being quoted a book in a book.
Stop it.
I can't get a book.
God damn, she just slings that chick on the table like nothing.
Dude, it's brutal. in a good way. I mean, in a very good way. And you know, don't run your mouth. It goes back to what I said before. You don't know who you're talking to. You think you're bad. It's like that Dave Chappelle thing when keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah, that was pretty much the fight. For those who just watched that, and I want to play something back for you, you may not have noticed, that is the man that just got up in the blue shirt. It's actually the boyfriend of the big girl that's doing the beatdown. And as people noted and had commented, his efforts to stop his girlfriend from beating the ever-living shit out of that other lady. I got it at a good screenshot. The look of pain on that one girl's face is pretty funny. His basically inaction to get his girlfriend off the other girl was noted with a bunch of comments. And he was actually asked about that by a reporter. And his comment was... which I thought was pretty funny. He says, I was not trying to stop it. He said, you don't stop a big woman like that.
I agree.
Gotta give him some credit, man, for being smart.
Oh, dude, you can watch that video, and I can tell you almost 100% what happened to that other chick. she could have easily done to his ass as well. She's strong. I was looking here. They did end up charging her. I didn't look at any more updates over the week.
They charged the girl that got her ass beat, but they didn't do anything to the manager, did they?
No. Well, the last update that I got was the fact that she had still had her job when I last reported on it, but I don't know if she still has it. McDonald's and restaurants in general like that are very, very weird about their employees, right or wrong, getting involved in something like that. And while I could see the first part being okay because the chick did smack her upside the head with a metal tray, or at least try to, it was when they did the tag team and the co-worker tossed her ass back into the lion's den. I think it's that second part. That could have been grounds, at least in McDonald's corporate world, would have been like, yeah, just cut her, she's out. You can't do that. You can't treat our customers like a piece of meat. I wanted to look her name up just to see, but I guess anybody could do that themselves and find out what happened with her. There it is, Erica Shavola. Let's see here real quick. We'll find out together.
Oh, I wouldn't have fired her.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
I'd have given her a raise.
Let's see. The most latest one. Here's one from July 30th, which would have been about the newest one. But that's the one that had the info that I've already reported on in regards to the events that led up to the fight. But I'm not seeing anything specifically. But this is the latest one. It's from the Sun. Either they're just late or they got more info. Oh, they got a nice little screen grab, though. I like that. Shit, I should try to make that my wallpaper. I'm trying to see here if they say anything about... It says it has since been reported that Fontalar was charged with battery while Shavola kept her job. So at this time, she still has her job. The only injury she has was some cuts and grazes she got from hitting her in the teeth.
Yeah, that shit'll happen.
Yeah. She said she was talking a lot of smack for a long time. I wasn't even going to hit her. Yeah, that's about it. The rest you saw in the video. McDonald's is understood to be investigating the brawl and said it does not condone the behavior depicted in this video. That's what worries me, is that little statement right there that she's going to end up losing her job over it.
Right. Well, I'm surprised that she didn't right off the bat. That's kind of a good sign that they didn't let her go right off the bat. But I'd be surprised if she didn't lose her job too, just because it's a corporate restaurant, like you said. But,
yeah.
Like I said, you got to watch who you run your mouth to. There's people out there that'll fuck you up nowadays and not think twice about it.
Yep, no, you're absolutely right.
Especially if you throw shit at them. I mean, she earned that beating.
Yeah, it looks like she didn't even get pissed off about the tray thing, because you can hear some of the audio, some of the shit that they're saying back and forth. But it seems to be that the stripper chick, and she is a stripper, the stripper chick said something about Big Girl's mama. That seemed to be what got her from around the counter.
Well, she does say at the very end, after she's done beating her ass, she says, "Respect my mama." So I guess that's related.
Yeah.
Like one of the commenters said in the thread, "I hope my kids defend my honor like that."
Yeah.
Well, the chick was 3 times her size at least.
No, she was big. I wouldn't want to tussle with her.
It was completely one-sided.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, there, by request, is the video that somebody wanted to see. So we will see if it actually lasts on YouTube or not. I don't know why we would be targeted for anything. I would imagine we're non-existent in YouTube eyes, but whatever. We're not making anything off this regardless, so it's not like it'll take a chunk out of my income. So we'll give the public what they want, right?
We'll find out. Yeah.
We'll save the letter for next week. It's a good one. It's not a death threat for once, but whatever.
That's amazing.
Those actually calmed down a good bit. This year's been a good year so far on me not getting threatened in some fashion. This one was just more very cringy. But it does delve into a topic that probably needs to be addressed. And the topic basically is, do we do updates on some of the people that we report on if it turns out that the person was innocent of whatever they were accused of? That was the basic email, but it was just in the way it was written was just so cringe-inducing. But just to give the short answer is usually no, because it's very simple. I don't care. I truly don't care. I'm not a news organization, and I'm basically just kind of regurgitating horrible shit that I see mainstream media outlets reporting on, and then I just try to find all the info we can, and then we post it with a little bit of our own dark humor. So whether or not they were found innocent or not does not mean they weren't arrested for whatever it was that they were found innocent of. That's what we're reporting on. I'm not giving my opinion on if I think that they're guilty or not, unless it's very apparent that they are. So, like they admit it, or there's video of it. Otherwise, I usually keep my opinion to myself, and if I don't, it's very, very easy to tell that it's my opinion. I'm not stating any type of fact. So unless somebody points it out, I'm not going back and looking up an article I wrote a year ago to see if somebody was found innocent or not, unless somebody points it out. And in that case, I don't really have a problem updating an article, but I'm not going to write a whole nother one. And we routinely take articles down, especially in our forums, because that's where our members post a shitload of news articles in there, because they're not actually writing them up. They're just posting links to other stories, so they get a whole bunch in there. But we'll take them down routinely. We get emails all the time, people asking us to remove stuff for one reason or another, and as long as it wasn't a sex thing, like a child rape, pedophile, rape in general, child abusers, we'll take them down. No problem whatsoever. We're not here to ruin anybody's life or anything. So that's what's actually my short answer. Surprisingly, I have a much longer one, but I'll save that one for the actual letter next week. So I've kept you guys here long enough. It's 12:30 almost, so we almost went 30 minutes over. We'll work on the schedule.
We're on a roll with that.
Yeah. That's fine, as long as I got something to talk about, and God knows I can run my mouth, as that's very apparent as well. So I don't mind. I just don't want to keep anybody longer than we had promised. So we'll work on the schedule. So I'm going to get you two guys to hang on just a second after we sign off here.
Sure thing.
In fact, before I do that, let me go over there real quick. We'll go ahead and do that now. All right. Hey, look, everybody, you have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you back on Monday when we start putting up some more bad news. And can you tell I'm trying to do something and talk at the same time?
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm trying to do three things at one time.
Not much, though.
And we'll be back next weekend. I don't know when, Friday or Saturday, but that's the one that we will. We'll figure that out here in a second. As soon as I can get over to this fucking thing, man. All right, guys. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
Take care, y'all.